Oh, we're live.
All right, everyone, welcome back. We're getting started back up again. We're very excited to welcome the Fibra Colectivo as they present the Fungi broadcast. Fibra Colectivo is made up of Lucia Mohe, Janine Tabia, and Gabriela Flores de Pozo. We're lucky enough to have Lucia Mohe as our guest artist in residence this year, along with Sohela, who spoke earlier this week. I'll let the Colectivo tell us a little bit more about their exciting project.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you everyone for the invitation. I am joined here with Janine Tapa. Our collaborator, Gabriela Flores, is not able to attend, but she will be here in spirit because we've done all of this together. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Do you want to say something, Janine?
No, hello to everyone. So, hello to everyone. I would like to start telling you that we, FIBRA, are not a social practice art collective, but however, we like social practice and hold collaboration at the core of our practice. For us, art is a way of practice collaboration. This specific project that we're going to share is inspired by and relies on collaboration between disciplines and between species, namely with mushrooms.
I'm going to read a short excerpt of from a book, Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake. As the day went on, more filaments sprang out from the root I'd uncovered, and I chose a few of them to follow all the way to the tips, where they burrowed into fragments of rotting leaf or twig. I dipped the ends in a vial of water to wash off the mud and looked at them through a loupe. The rootlets branched like a small tree, and their surface was covered with a filmy layer that appeared fresh and sticky. It was these delicate structures I wanted to examine. From these roots, a fungal network laced out into the soil and around the roots of nearby trees. Without this fungal web, my tree would not exist. Without similar fungal webs, other trees would not exist. Without similar fungal webs, no plant would exist anywhere. All life on land, including my own, depend on these networks. I tugged lightly on my root and felt the ground move. The first thing that we would like to do is to invite everyone to do a drawing. This is our first drawing, will be a loupe drawing. We're going to imagine that we're looking through Sheldrake's magnifying glass, what he calls a loupe, and we're going to invite you to make a drawing as we read the description again. And we want you to think about, what do those connections look like? How are you envisioning them? And how do you imagine the shape of this network? And if it's okay with you, I'm going to read again as you draw. As the day went on, more filaments sprang out from the root I'd uncovered, and I chose a few of them to follow all the way to the tips, where they burrowed into fragments of rotten leaf or twig. I dipped the ends in a vial of water to wash off the mud. I looked at them through a loupe or magnifying glass. The rootlets branched like a small tree, and their surface was covered with a filmy layer that appeared fresh and sticky. It was these delicate structures I wanted to examine. From these roots, a fungal network laced out into the soil and around the roots of nearby trees. Without this fungal web, my tree would not exist. Without similar fungal webs, other trees would not exist. Without similar fungal webs, no plant would exist anywhere. All life on land, including my own, depend on these networks. I tugged lightly on my root and felt the ground move. I'm going to leave you 1 minute to finish the drawing, but you also can continue drawing if you want to as we keep on talking for a little bit more. Our project, as you might have noticed by now because of the title and how we've started, involves mushrooms. And this first image that you're seeing right here, it's a diagram that connects all of the aspects that are included in the project we're about to share. The project is called Desbosque. And then all of these elements in the image are following mycelium, mushroom way of growing to connect all of the elements in the project. There are two large components to this project. One is going to be deforestation, and we'll talk about this in a little bit. And the other one is mycorrhizal networks. Mycorrhizal networks are inspire this project. There are these underground connections that take place between trees and mushroom, and that allow a system of exchange of communication, but also exchange of nutrients and other kinds of goods. The word myco comes from the Greek for fungi, and rhiza is part of the root word, is part of the Greek for root. So that's what this network is connected. This is how it works. And you can see on the left an image of that, a representation of that network. And on the right, there's an actual mapping done by Suzanne Simard, who is a scientist from Canada, where she connected some Douglas firs, or she uncovered the connections between some Douglas firs and mushrooms underneath the ground. When we start to talk about mushrooms, it's common to first imagine the image that you see on the left, but actually that's the fruit of the organism. It's kind of thinking about just apples and without understanding or seeing the rest of the tree. The same happens with mushrooms. What we see on the left is a fruiting body, but the rest of the organism is composed of tiny, very thin threads that are called mycelium. And you can see on the right, there's a picture of mycelium growing on a petri dish. This project is inspired or starts with mycorrhizal networks because we wanted to tell the story of the trees in the Peruvian Amazon. And we wanted to connect with the mushrooms so that we could tap into their information and communication system so that we could share this information. So this information about these trees is specifically addressing deforestation in Ucayali. Ucayali is located in the Peruvian Amazon rainforest and is one of the 5 regions with the largest amount of forests in Peru. At the same time, it is a region with the most complaints related to logging. And only in 2019, there was a forest loss that was estimated around 67,360 soccer fields. Sorry, we play soccer, not football, but just so that you get a sense of what this number is and what the amount of forests that were lost. 67,360 soccer fields in 1 year disappeared of the Amazon. The main causes around these forest loss are illegal logging, land trafficking, and specifically in this area, palm oil plantations. This is an image that comes from Global Forest Watch, which is a satellite monitoring organization that keeps track of deforestation all over the world. And we selected this area that you can see here in the image. Well, I guess I'll start on the left. The small image on the left is the map of Peru. And then highlighted within Peru is the department of Ucayali. And then you'll see a small pink square. That is the area that we focused our research on. On the big image, the big map, you'll see that the pink areas are representing tree cover loss, and then the green is actual tree coverage. The black line, this black shape, geometric shape, is delineating or, yes, marking our area of research. The white line is marking the territory, the ancestral lands of the community of Santa Clara de Uchuña, who are a Shipibo indigenous community. And within these white lines, you'll see pink shape. I'm trying to see if I know the name in English, but this pink geometric shape, oh, I have my cursor. So this shape here and this shape here that you see, these concentrations of pink, are representing palm oil plantations. So this image for us is a way of really, it's a direct image of how deforestation intersects not only environmental, it's not only an environmental issue, but intersects social, political, economic issues. And that's what we wanted to talk about. We wanted to talk about deforestation in its complexity, or at least try to address that complexity. Right now I'm going to share a video. I'm going to share a video from Santa Clara Uchuña, which is this community that I shared earlier. They're a Shipibo community who have been struggling over ownership of their land since 2011. And approximately 80 hectares of their territory has been illegally acquired and transformed into these massive plantations. Which results, of course, in this land that was their source of food, of medicine, and also a place for spiritual connection, is now threatened by soil contamination, water contamination, air contamination. In this video, we wanted to also make space for themselves to describe the situation that they're living in. And we'll just share an excerpt, but we really recommend watching all of it. It's not long, it's 12 minutes, and it's really good. So we'll put the link on the chat for those of you who are interested in watching this.
Como una historia, que hoy lo tenemos y mañana ya no. Lo que es nuestro territorio, si lo vamos a tener de por vida, lo vamos a tener y nunca se va a terminar.
Si los árboles, los ríos o los bosques tendrían lengua como nosotros, tal vez viviríamos dentro de gritos, ¿no?
Si no actúan frente a estas demandas, el futuro de la Amazonía va a ser un aeropuerto, va a ser un desierto de cadáveres ecológicos. Es un crimen, pero los pueblos indígenas no podemos quedarnos inertes a eso. No, frente a una acción tiene que haber una reacción. Nosotros, ¿cómo vamos a reaccionar? No nos importa, como lo dije hace un momento, dar nuestras vidas para defender lo que es nuestro.
Porque nosotros, como comunidad indígena, no estamos acostumbrados a vivir en desiertos.
Thank you, Lucia. I would like to talk about the other part of the project, that is the fabrication of the sculptures. As we learned about mushrooms, we started to make experimentations for the fabrication of the sculptures. These were shaped as communication tools, co-created in collaboration with oyster and Ganoderma mushrooms. Also, a specialist in growing fungi here in Lima, that was Jorge Diaz. I would like to tell you a little bit about how we make, what is the process of fabrication of making these sculptures with the mushrooms. The next one, please. So in this image, you can see that first we made molds of, in this case, a megaphone. And we then put sterilized substrate. We use agricultural waste of corn, and we put this substrate, this material inside the mold, and it already have the mushroom, the oyster mushroom inside. So it starts, we close the mold and it start growing and gluing all the substrate when it starts growing and taking all the shape of the mold. After a few days or weeks, it depends on the weather and all the different components as humidity and air. We open the mold and everything is covered with fungi, and we take it out of the mold and wait until it had the fruits, the fruitifying of the fruiting of the mushroom, and then it dries out or dehydrate to have the sculpture of the tool. Then we were working here in the space of Jorge outside Lima, and we were doing some, like, we were learning how to grow mushrooms, and also having some different tests on which way was the best for us here in Lima to grow the mushrooms into the shapes of the sculptures that we wanted to do. After having these experiments, here we are, the Fibras and Jorge, moving all the mushrooms, the seeds that has already the mushrooms in, and we are like mixing everything before put it into the molds. The next one, please. And after a few experiments and tests in Jorge's space, we needed to go back to the studio, to our art studio in Lima, and to put all the space clean, as we were like trying to have all the features of a laboratory. In this space that we called Myco Cave, that we worked on, we were like doing the same process that I told you about before, and we were like working and trying to have the clean space and air space, so we don't have like contamination of other bacteria or mushrooms around. So our ostra and oyster and Ganoderma were like having the perfect environment to grow and develop. The other image that I want to show is the microphone growing. So here we are putting all the substrate that has already the mushroom in and into the molds that we will have there, like megaphones and laptops, telephones, and different molds of artifacts and tools, communication tools, human communication tools. It was important for us to have this connection that if mushrooms were the ones making these connections, underground connections and system underground, we wanted to have like the mushrooms will take the shape of communication tools, of human communications tool, to tell us a little bit about deforestation. So here you can see how when we open the mold after a week or days, and all the white parts is already the organism, the mushroom, the fungi that it grows, and it took all the shape of the microphone in this case. And well, that's a little bit about how we co-create the sculptures for the project.
And I wish we had a picture, Janine, of what Myco Cave looked on the outside, because this is a studio, right? And so it's not necessarily a clean space. It doesn't have the same conditions that a lab would have, where mushroom cloning and mushroom growing can take place. So we're trying really hard by separating this area with this plastic, and then we have a filter and our alcohol, and we're spraying, and it's very tiny, and the three of us are inside it, and it's really, really hot. It's in the middle of the summer. So I like how these pictures, I don't know, for me, they look very organized and clean, and like there's a protocol. But I think the best conditions for the mushrooms, like you said, were not necessarily the best conditions for the humans. So that's
Yes. Definitely, we were like having some concessions for our
yeah.
sake.
Those are the pictures we're not showing you. But that's a story, the other side of the story.
Yeah, that's true.
So so far we've shared 2 collaborations at least, or maybe 3. Janine, when she was explaining about why we made these sculptures and how she is using the term co-create, we really think of these mushrooms as collaborators in the making of these projects. So the first collaboration would be the mushrooms and the trees, well, exchanging on their own outside of humans knowing always or participating necessarily directly. The next collaboration is us working with the mushrooms to co-create these sculptures. But then there's also our collaboration with Jorge Diaz, who Janine introduced, who who's not an artist, but who has all this experience growing with mushrooms. And when working together, there was a great exchange that involved not only us learning about growing mushrooms, but having all kinds of conversations about ecology and design and whatnot. And now I'm going to talk about another branch of our project, or another hyphae, or part of the mycelium, and that is connected to the issue of deforestation in Ucayali. Data was very important and was a big part of our project. In our research, we were using deforestation data from that specific area that I shared earlier from the last 10 years. All of these data comes from the platform Global Forest Watch. And we wanted to work with this data in a way that it can be felt in the body. So we translated this data into light and sound. So we presented the sculptures. Those sculptures were part of an installation that involved, we'll now share the sound and the light in that installation. We're looking again at an image from Global Forest Watch, and these are specifically GLAD alerts, which are meant for the early detection of deforestation. This is a satellite system, and it's very interesting how it works, because it's just on basically the way it works is that the system is locating when there's a color change in a pixel, and when such color change is significant enough to be able to represent a tree falling down, then there's an alert with a GPS coordinates so that people can go and check on that area, because as you can imagine, you're in the thick of the forest. It's not something that you can see ahead. You can't see a block ahead or even 2 blocks ahead, because it's so thick. So having the satellite detecting color change is a way of really being able to monitor and check on the area before it's too late. These GLAD alerts informed the sound. So this graph here was created by our collaborator, Brian House, who is a sound artist and who's a sound artist who worked with us on this project, creating a soundscape for the installation. And this is a graph that shows a rhythm of spikes that reflect the seasons and the dynamics that are involved in the deforestation every year. So here you're seeing 5 years, and you can see how there are usually some peaks that are that align with human activity. 5 years of data of these deforestation alerts correspond to 10 minutes of sound. This is the software that Brian House designed so that we could have 30 speakers embedded inside the sculptures, and each these speakers are, the intent was that the sound wasn't going to come from above or from around the sculptures. The idea was that to have a spectator or a visitor walk through the sound and be surrounded by the sounds, and also have a different experience depending on where one is standing. The center of the sound is also moving around. The other influence in this decision making of having a distributed sound is, of course, the mycelium, the mycorrhizal networks that are in its own a distributed network. As I mentioned, the software designed is made in a way so that this data can be interpreted, and then the sound can be orchestrated throughout these 30 speakers. The amount of the deforestation in the data corresponds to the number of speakers that are playing at once. And then the center of the sound also moves around the installation space based on this distribution. The sound itself is also a mixture of electrical sounds, electrical signals, non-human voices, and kind of earthy tones. I will play an excerpt of that sound. And now we are going to talk a little bit about light, which is the second component that is also interpreting this data.
So for the system of the lights in the installation, we collaborate with Ariel Bay, who helped us to translate these GLAD alerts that Lucia were talking about from Global Forest Watch into a light system. So we started from geolocation provided by the data through satellites, and the GLAD alerts were located were like focused on the area of in a single image. As you can see here, the alerts are like were organized and placed chronologically, and we took the data from 2015 to 2019, and we obtained almost like 300,000 alerts. So there was like a lot of numbers going on, like, and we wanted to synthesize that on a video. The location of each alert in the map was escalated into the installation, and also we wanted to focus on each light in the place where it was more condensed. All the alerts were more condensed, so we replied like make a parallel into the space between the geographical space, the area affected in Ucayali, into the installation. Here there is a sequence of 60 alerts per second, and the video was adapted to obtain 10 minutes of alerts for each year. For in the installation, we use LED lights for the low energy and of consumption and long duration and the system. And it works through an ARNet that allows the lights to behave as pixels, so they can go on and off following like the video with Ariel. As I said, the composition of the lights were transferred into installation, making a parallel with the location of the alerts in the area that we were like researching and focusing in Ucayali. So these are this is the third component of the project. We had sculptures made in collaboration with fungi, with mushrooms, the light and the sound, and every part also has a human collaborator, as we told you, and now we can. So here is the first image where with what we started. So we thought about it as for explaining it also as a way as the mycelium grows underground with mushrooms. So we would like to share a little bit of the images of how the installation came together and how you can see the whole space. And then also here is an overview of the installation, where you have some of the parts with the lights on and the sculptures. For Fibra, it was important to create an experience of the deforestation from Ucayali to an urban context. This installation was thought to be installed and shown in an urban context here in Lima. So we wanted to bring a little bit of the experience of deforestation, and we didn't want to show like data or numbers, but we wanted to make the persons that the visitors to the installation to feel with the body the experience and the rhythm of deforestation. So well, you can see here that some of the sculptures that were like also hanging out from the ceiling, and most of them had the speakers inside, so the sound was distributed around it. And then there is I think a video that we put here, so we can share. Is not only about like looking at the sculptures and the mushrooms that are like amazing, but also it's really important to feel a little bit the experience of being there. So we're going to share bits of so you can see how the lights worked and how the sound goes, and how everything like weave a little bit in the space. Also, I have to say that in the installation you have sorry, like the smell of, it's also a very like you can feel it with all your senses, like it's not only visual and sound, but also it's you can smell a little bit like the mushrooms and the soil that it's on the floor, and that's very important because it's like a really immersive installation that you can walk through, and in the moment that you're walking through, you are like feeling and getting this like insight of the experience of deforestation. So yeah, you can play it.
I'm going to add one more thing. So this show is up right now. It's installed at the Contemporary Art Museum in Lima, precisely because Lima is the capital of Peru, like Janine was saying, and this issue is happening in the Amazon. And even though it's the same country, sometimes those realities can seem apart. And we wanted to start a conversation about how they are not apart. I mean, if we were thinking about all the products that contain palm oil in the city, and it's really incredible how it's in so many products, from soaps to I don't know, lipsticks or creams, to cookies and like frappuccinos from Starbucks, or like it's used for so many things that it kind of makes this image of connection also very vivid. And I also wanted to comment on what you were saying, Janine, about it being an experience with all of the senses, and how important that was important for us as we started the project. But then also we began the installation a year ago, and then 2 days after the install began, the pandemic hit, and Peru closed its borders, and everything went into very strict quarantine. So a year later, we finished the installation. So I'm sure for artists here in the room, like, you know that 1 year of installation is like a very rare thing. And having that separation between people and like all of these Zoom time, we have gotten great feedback of how it is to go into a space that you can smell, hear, see. They can't touch, although I'm sure some people are touching, but like having this more fully embodied experience with the information, which is in a way been good for the way we wanted to tell our story. We have one more. So this is Desbosque, our project that we wanted to share. Janine, were you going to say something?
Yes. I wanted to close a little bit this presentation of the project, sharing about this connection and collaborations that are taking place all the time in the underground. And for us, learning about mushrooms and mycorrhizal networks have inspired how we think about collaboration with humans and non-humans alike. So yes, it was for us, it was like important to leave you with these connections and experiences around the project.
Thank you. And also we wanted to close our presentation. There's a broadcast. I don't know if you can hear the fungi broadcast. There's a call coming in. We wanted to share finish this presentation by making a second drawing. The first drawing was a loop drawing, and we're using loop, which is Sheldrake's term. But in this case, we're thinking about zooming in further and thinking about a microscope drawing. So to close our time together, we want to invite you to draw again. And we're going to ask that you go back to the drawing that you did at the beginning of the session and choose your favorite part of that drawing. That selection can be made based on that's an area of a drawing that you think represents a good network, or that perhaps could use a little bit more connections. You can pick an area because you like how the drawing came out, or because that is where just you began drawing. Any reason works. And then we're going to ask you to focus on that area that you chose and make a second drawing as though you were zooming into that section with a microscope. We will then share all of our individual drawings so that the partial connections that we are bringing forth to share with the group can form a network between us. So there are some written instructions in case that wasn't fully clear. And now we're going to leave a couple of minutes for everyone to draw. We're going to draw as well. How is everyone doing? Good? Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I need to do that, right, Janine?
Yes, I think so, for us to have like the whole.
To be able to see. Okay,
Yes.
great. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And what we would like to do now is that if you are able to turn on your camera and share your drawing on the screen, we would like to be able to see if we can connect all of our parts of connections and make a network between all of us. And YouTube friends, we wish we could see you, but I hope we might not be able to see you. Hi.
Hi.
So, and I'm going to
So-
screen share so we can get a final image of our networks. If you're not able, we will get something. Something will happen.
Yeah. Let's try to make like the connections. Yeah, that's a good one too, Ariana. Thank you.
Yes, I love it. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Bodies count. Bodies
Yes,
totally
of
count.
course.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a picture now. And then maybe if you want to take pictures as well, I'm sure they all will look different because we don't have the same square arrangement.
No.
Sorry,
I'm going to
Ariana,
turn
you're doing
out.
great.
Thank you.
Janine, did you take a picture?
No, I can't. Well, I'm going to. Sorry.
Please do. Nice. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's us. That's Fibra. We'd love to hear from you if you have any questions or comments.
How did you choose that particular geographic shape? Like what is the how did you choose your rectangle, which isn't really quite a rectangle? It's got a little other corner on it.
Yes, we don't know how that is called. In Spanish, it would be a paralelepípedo.
Yeah.
No, sorry, translate that.
Parallelogram could be.
Yeah. So there are some limitations in the kind of shapes that we can pick within the system. And this is a tool that is not normally used, I think, for art projects. They're used for conservation projects all around the world. So we would have wanted to pick something more organic looking. So that was the most, we were trying to not have a square, to have more angles than a square and create something that would kind of be more organic. So, but the shape per se wasn't so much important as a sample of this transect between, there's a city, the capital of the department is included there, the river is included there, the indigenous community is included there, the palm oil plantations, and also Ucayali within the last 5-10 years, the increase of deforestation has been massive, and it's really impossible to take in those numbers as numbers.
So it was the features that existed in the different, like, landscape features and political features that, and then you found a way of encapsulating that space and focusing in there. Yeah.
Yes. Jenny, do you want to add anything?
Yes. Well, no, that it was like we were like trying to find a place that has also connect all these like transversal connections, and we can put it all together. And the shape, as Lucia said, like was one of the things, that not making a square or rectangle, but making something more like organic with straight lines or something. The tool, the Global Forest Watch platform allowed us to pick.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, like after we pick the area, we can like download all the alerts and the data from that specific area. So yeah.
And at some point we also thought about how afterwards we were like, oh, maybe we should have done it a rectangle, because we were interested in mapping the geographical distribution of the GLAD alerts onto the gallery space and having a kind of like a, not one-on-one, but a close relationship of how that is moving. And we've done that, only that the gallery space is more, square-like, and the area that we chose is less square-like. But we decided to keep it. We could have downloaded all the data again, but we decided to keep it because it's not going to be precise anyway, right? Yeah. So that little bit of edge in the translation is also interesting, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ariana.
Hi, Janine. It's nice to meet you. Hola, Lucia. ¿Cómo estás?
Hola, Lisa.
Hola.
Hola. I was very curious, the installation in Peru, in Lima, that you had, a year of installation time. I was wondering what it feels like. I couldn't understand scale from the images, which were very beautiful, by the way. And I was very much loving what you were talking about like the olfactory sense that is part of it, that the touch, the smell, the presence. But could you describe for us what it would feel like to be in the space? Is it like could I walk into that, or am I kind of looking at it from a little bit of a distance, just out of curiosity?
Well, thank you, Lisa. The idea for us is like that you can walk through and you can feel like in different parts of the space. To sense also the sound and the lights in a different way, because the lights were like walking around, like from one side to another, as the video was like playing, like the video that turns into the lights. But also the sound was like going around and through the sculptures. So you can the idea is that you can cross the space, and you can go around each sculpture and each part of the area of the installation. And we had yeah, it wasn't on hold for like 1 year for the pandemic, like the thing, but then we have like 3 weeks of installation that it was like a bit like we was really thankful for that time for installing, because it was like really complex to put all these things and to weave it in the space together, to have all this immersive feeling. So everything is really dark, and you only have like a little bit of the lights of the that were like of the system that were like turning on and off, that were like the alerts, like thinking of the lights that is not only of the alerts, but thinking about when a tree goes down in the forest, in the forest, and all, it's like really hard. The light is like really hard when it like cuts in the space. So it's kind of like that. So it's kind of like intense, and for moments really immersive in a really nice way, but also it's kind of like alert and intense for another moments, because yeah, it's yeah, some people said that it's a little bit post-pandemic the feeling that they had after, but yeah.
And it's more or less I was just translating meters into feet, and it's more or less 32 feet by 22 feet of a space, and there's soil underground, and the mushrooms smell, and you have the sculptures at different heights of your body. So yeah, it's a shame because of the documentation will never be able to do it, right? Like even hearing the sound through 30 speakers versus, I don't know, headphones, where there's 2 signals is very different, but it's definitely not vision centric necessarily.
And it's also nice because of the different levels in the sculptures are placed, also makes you have a little bit of caution on how you go through and walk through the space. So it's kind of like this thing of like, don't touching the art that I don't necessarily like a lot, but you have to be careful of. But here is not necessarily about like a piece, but like the sculptures made of mushrooms, with mushrooms, and I don't know, it's like kind of like this walking through a forest, or walking through space that you are aware that are like a lot of non-humans around it, and you have to be aware of these other rhythms and feelings and senses that are around.
Yes, I think we have to say goodbye.
I think so. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for
Thank
the
you.
invitation. Thank you for your questions and comments and drawings, and for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
I want to know more.
Me too.
Lucia, before you go, I have a quick question. And I know you said you dehydrated the sculptures, but did you find that any of them did any of them fruit over the year? Did any of them create new fruit?
Yes, I mean,
because I know oysters are a little bit resilient sometimes.
They are, and that's why they're great companions for biofabrication or for microfabrication, because they're so resilient. And I mean, I could talk on hours. They're so like powerful and magical. But the answer is yes. Fruiting continued throughout the year, for sure.
Nice.
Yes, and some of the sculptures still have the dried mushrooms, like the fruits in the sculptures. So yeah.
Yes, and everything locked down. So the whole, we're okay, right, Amanda? Is this okay? We're off screen, no? We're off.
We're okay. We can go until 2 o'clock if we want to just ask any other questions.
But it is still live on YouTube, Lucia.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything inappropriate anyway, so it's always good to know. Janine, so the whole country was on lockdown and it was very strict. We, like, from one day we're making sculptures in the studio, and then the president is announcing that tomorrow at 6 no one can move from their own houses. Like, you have to stay, you can't even go to the groceries, nothing. So then what we had to do is run to the studio and pack all the mushrooms into boxes and bags and like divide them. And Janine took the big bulk of them to her house. So we would then be zooming again. And then Janine would be covered with, you know, like tolling sculptures all around her and all these mushrooms. So yes, life continued throughout the year.
Yes.
Very cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question since we opened up the time just a little? So I don't quite understand the whole process. So it sounds like you dehydrated them so that they would stop growing. Is that true? Okay. I guess I was going to ask, what are you going to do next, like after the installation? And if they are still growing, like, are you going to keep them or like, yeah, I'm just interested in what's going to happen after.
Janine, do you want to answer?
Well, they are not growing anymore. They are like dried, and we are going to keep it until, because we are not sure really how long they will last. Probably without, because Lima is really, really humid. So that's something that it's one thing that it's not necessarily that help them to continue being dried and complete and like a sculpture. But they're like, they already had like 1 year of, and then we're now like with the second month of the exhibition on installed. So I'm not sure. I think that we will see. We will keep it until we can be able of installing it again in another time.
We want to take it to the jungle at some point.
Yeah, that was the first.
That's the point.
Yeah, that was the plan.
Yes, that's a plan pre-COVID. But also the dehydration happens because it allows for the preservation of the sculptures. So the mushrooms would finish their growth at some point. Anyway, right? They have a life cycle that would end. But when we take out the water, that means that we can keep the volumes for longer. And if we want to, if at some point we want to, we can just break them apart and put them into compost. They're fully compostable.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add, I know we have 1 minute, Amanda will shut me down if needed, but I was thinking just about, it's really nice to meet you, Janine, but I was thinking about Lucia's broader practice as well. It sounds like you two have been collaborating for a very long time, but I always ask about scale of work. I think that's why I was trying to ask, like, what's it like to be in this space in Lima? And then I'm thinking about the difference between like space potatoes all the way to like the underpinnings of how we are connected. And I wanted to comment on that in the group because I find it very beautiful. And I also find it to be something so difficult to imagine and then to also realize within one's work. And so I just wanted to say that it's exciting to meet one of Lucia's collaborators because I've been hearing so much about her work over the past year, and she knows I'm in love with space potatoes, but also with mycelium and with all of the ways that we're like interconnected. Your work seems so bound by that, both of you. And it's just really exciting ways of understanding how you manifest that. Thank you so much, both of you, for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
All right, everyone. It was excellent. Thanks for taking a little extra time for those questions and comments.